Hey there, it's Marianne from Thrive Admin Services. In this video, I'm going to be helping you to align and merge and play around with the cell content formatting in Microsoft Excel. We're going to look at the alignment left to right and top to bottom. We're going to have a play with the text direction inside a cell, and then we're going to look at what the wrap text function and merging options are. So this is a useful video. It's broken down into 4 parts, and it will give you the understanding of how you can play around with some of your content to present it in a more visually pleasing way. As usual, and I think I mentioned it in the first video, I'm working on Microsoft Excel using a Microsoft 365 business subscription on a Mac on the desktop. So if any of those variables are different for you, your layout may look different, but the functions and features inside are all the same. So let's get started. Okay, so I have created some basic content in this Excel document, so we can have a look at how we can format the content in the cells to change the alignments and make them more aesthetically pleasing, which is often what we need if we're sharing content or if you're working with large volumes of information and you want to be able to review it easily. So today I'm going to be working in Microsoft Excel on a Microsoft 365 subscription on the desktop on a Mac. So if you have any variables in that, if you're working in an older version, you're working on a PC and you're working on the web at any level, if any of those are different, some of your buttons may look a little bit different to mine. But what we're doing here in terms of the formatting of the cells should be universal for you. So you should still have this similar functionality, same functionality, maybe slightly different arrangement of your buttons. So we are working on the Home tab. So if you have your ribbon down, we've got our cut and paste, we've got our text formatting, and then we've got our alignment section. And we're actually going to be working with this section here. So while it is quite similar to Word, and if you've worked with any of the alignments in Word, these should all be quite familiar. There are some slightly different features that you can do in Excel as well. So to start with, you can see I've got 5 rows and 4 columns. And in my row, in column A, we've got some numbers. Column B is first name, column C is last name, and then I've got like a notes column here. And you can see that this has a lot more text in it than the others, so that we can just see how those different alignments work. So to start with, we're going to have a look at the center alignment, or we've got the alignment top to bottom, and then we've got an alignment left to right. And these are very similar to what you would have in Word, although the top to bottom one is only available in Word when you're working with tables. You'll have seen that before. So if I am wanting to change the alignment of the entire set of data, I would click up in this top corner here and it will highlight the whole sheet. And what I can do here is I can choose from any of these 6 buttons. So I can align everything to the top, and you can see here if I was to extend this one down and maybe double this one out, you can see that the content of the cells is attached to the very top. So it's almost like it's pinned at the top, so that this is quite handy in this row particularly, because this content is so much deeper than the single line. This is 5 lines and this is only 1 line. So it means that visually when you look at it, it all seems to be neat and tidy. By comparison, if I was to change this to align to the middle, you can see what's happening is that this cell, all of this, I've still got white space, but this is going to be less even to look at. If you like clean lines, aligning to the middle when you've got different levels of or different amounts of content per cell isn't going to make sense for you. Single lines are fine because obviously everything is at the same level. And then aligning to the bottom does exactly the same thing. I can select the whole lot and align it to the bottom. And again, this way your bottom line or your last line of content will always match. So again here, your eye tends to go across this way and then it jumps up. So to my mind, I would usually, if I know I'm going to have large or I'm going to have some sort of disparity between the cells, I would be working with them aligned to the top just to make it a bit easier on the eye. So the next level in our alignment options here are our left to right options, which are exactly the same as the ones you would have used in Word. So again, if I'm selecting the whole cell, which is usually what I would do to start with, I would have a general rule for this sheet. And I would say 9 times out of 10, I want everything to be in the center, okay? Mainly because if I'm doing something like this where I've got 4 columns, these 2 I definitely want aligned to the center. This one, typically I would have numbers aligned to the right. It's just the way I am. And text like this, I would probably align to the left. But of the 4 columns, I have 2 that I want the same rule applied to. So it's easier to apply your majority rule to the sheet, and then you can edit the columns as you go. So just to recap, we can have left aligned, which is how you would normally work within Word. Everything would be left aligned typically. You can have center alignment, which is left to right center, so that's across the cell. And then you can have right alignment, which will have it hard up against the right-hand side of the cell. You will notice that there is no justified text option in Excel. So that's where it kind of stretches and fills it out. It doesn't do that in Excel. That is a Word-specific alignment. So if you are not looking, or if you're looking for it to sort of stretch out across the cell, then I would recommend using a left alignment for that column or for that information. So once we have our text aligned the way that we would like, we can play around here in this section. So this is quite specific to, not specific to Excel. You do have these features in Word as well, but they're probably more useful when it comes to working in a spreadsheet. And as an example, the top button here is about your text alignment in terms of the way the text is written. And these may be reminiscent of some of the old word art days in Microsoft Word. So you can actually angle the text across the cell in different ways. So I'm going to use Stephen Smith here. So we'll do these ones and we'll play around with the options. So we have an angle anti-clockwise, and what that's going to do is pop it on a 45-degree angle from left to right heading up. Now this is quite useful if you are creating things like you've got some headings across the top and then you'll have data or ticks or numbers underneath. So this would be like, these are great for a heading row. The other options that we've got are that you can then angle it the opposite way. So it's from up high to down low on that 45-degree angle. Vertical text. So this is not what you would typically think. It isn't turning the word around. It's actually popping the letters on top of each other. Again, useful if you're working with something that's quite long, or the word won't fit if you want to just have a small thing underneath. So if I was to say here, if we were to have day, and then we would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's make that date. So if we were doing it like a calendar, and then we wanted to make this, not wrap text, this one here, and we might make it vertical text like this, and it means that we could actually shrink this quite narrow, which gives you, obviously, when you're trying to look at things on a visual perspective, you can space things out a little bit better. The next one in the list, when we go back to good old Steve Smith here, we can then rotate. So these are the two that you may be more familiar with. We can rotate the text up, which is again perfect here if I was doing this for the date option. We rotate that text up, and of course then you can pull this up, so it's a much neater option. The other things that we can do is we can then rotate the text down. So it depends on how you're going to print it or view it. Generally speaking, my preference would be this way. I find this easier to read from the bottom up rather than from the top down. But again, entirely up to you. The other two options that we have in this little panel are to do with your indent, and this is quite interesting. So I'm going to use, as an example here, I'm going to use this larger cell with all of the text because you'll be able to see the difference. So if I pull this one out a little bit longer, you can see quite a lot of text in there, and I might say, look, it's really hard up against the side here, and I just don't want it to sit quite so expansively across that cell. And what I can do is I can adjust the indent in or out. So I can move it to the right, and what it's doing, you can see it's creating that margin effectively in the cell itself. It doesn't affect anything else. It is only this cell. So this is a way that you can potentially make your text look neater, or if you're going to pop an image in when you print it, or you're going to want someone to be able to scribble notes against it. And then likewise, if I go, oh, I've gone too far, I can decrease the indent and move it back across the cell. Now, as with all of the functions here, if I choose the whole page and move it, you'll see everything is shuffling. All right, so I can apply it to the entire set of content, or I can simply apply it to a cell or a row and column. So I have that flexibility. So the last section that we're going to look at in the alignment is this final section with our wrap text and our merge and center. Now, wrap text relates to how the text sits in the cell, and you'll have all experienced this at some point. So if I take the wrap text off, you'll see that this is everything that's written in the cell, and what it's doing is, if I open this all the way out, you can see it will just keep running. So if I take these out, because that was part of the problem, and I bring this cell back into, say, let's make it 40 wide. You see the cell ends here technically, this is the line, but the text itself just keeps running. And when I have other text that I may, or other columns of information I may want, then it's going to literally cut it off there and I can't see anything. So the wrap text function, and I'm going to apply it simply to this cell in this instance, by simply clicking. So there are two options here. You can wrap the text or you can shrink the text to fit. Now, obviously, if I do that, that's ridiculous. It is tiny and it's completely illegible on the screen. So we don't use that. What you'll do is you can click just the main button here, or you can drop it down. But if it's the one that's visible, wrap text, what it does is it keeps rolling the text inside the confines of the cell. And it will automatically make the cell deeper. And that's where, when we were talking about the alignment, it means that everything at the top still lines up if we've set it here, and the rest of that content drops below. I can make the content smaller, not a problem, but it just means that my the alignment will be out then. So I would prefer to usually wrap text. And again, you can do this at the top here and it will wrap everything. So if I was to then type something here, like we had the name Emma Louise, it will, now I would have to change that, but it's going to automatically wrap it. If I don't wrap it, it runs, you can see here, it's going to run over the edge there and over the edge there. So that's your wrap text function. The other one that we have is merge and center. Now this is useful when you've got, this one is a good example. So I'm going to unwrap this text. And if I decide that I actually want, if I bring this cell back to where it would normally sit, so we've got D, E, and F, and I might say, you know what, I actually want this, this, and this. I want these to be, I want that to be the width of column D. And if I go merge and center for these cells, so it's the cells that I need to select, and we can merge and center. So merge and center will pull those three cells together into one, and it will center the text. Merge across will merge D, E, and F and bring all of D's content across. Merge cells simply will merge them, and unmerge will return them. So we'll do all four. So to merge cells, you can see it's brought it all here. And because I don't have the wrap text function, make this a bit bigger and a bit bigger again. Right, so you can see what it's done here. By merge and center, it's taken that text and it's moved it in, so I can go here, merge and center, and it's made it center aligned across the 3. Now underneath, these are still 3 separate cells, but this is now one individual cell. I'm going to unmerge the cells and it moves it back to where it was. Now I'm going to do the next option, which is to merge across, and that does exactly the same thing. But if I unmerge these and I decide to make this left aligned, and then I go like this and I go merge across, you can see it's kept that left alignment. It hasn't overridden what I've chosen for this cell. It's taken this cell's format and dragged it across the 3. I unmerge the cells, and now we're going to go merge cells, and that will work exactly the same way. The only time that these would be different is if I merge across, will definitely bring the text from here. So if I go here, and I might have 200 and yes, if I merge these across, if I just merge the cells, you'll get an alert. So when you just merge the cells, it only keeps what's in the left-hand cell. So of the 3, it will only ever keep this. I will lose this, okay? So if I go okay to that, it's taken the upper left option of 200. I've lost my yes. If I undo this, if I then go merge across, again, if I go okay here, it's only going to keep the left-hand option. So if I have here these and I merge across, it will only keep cell content. It's only keeping what the leftmost option is. So if I unmerge them, actually if I go back to what we had, if I now go merge and center, again, I will lose everything else. So that's something to be aware of. If you're trying to merge content and it's across different cells, you will lose everything else, okay? So merge cells brings it across, and then of course you've seen me in action doing the unmerge, which is where we revert back. So if I do this one and unmerge, it will revert back to the existing column requirements. So you would never do this for an entire sheet, because it will basically make it one large cell. What we want to do is be working with, you might decide, actually, my notes for this one, I've got an explanation of why there's nothing in these columns, so I will merge this one across. And then here we'll have these broken down individually. So I hope that that was really useful for you. While these functions are similar to ones you may have worked with in Word, the ability and what you can do with them in Excel can help you to create content and data in a way that's really easy to follow, particularly if you're sharing it with clients or team members and you want to make it really easy for them to zone in on what they need to know. So if you've enjoyed this video, I would love it if you could subscribe to the channel and follow along to be notified whenever new videos go out. And if you are looking for more support or help with Microsoft Excel or any part of your Microsoft 365 subscription, then you could get involved over on Microsoft Dynamo's, Thrive's free Facebook group, or you can find me hanging out on Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and Facebook. Just search for Thrive Admin Services. Have a great day.